How's it going, everybody? It's me again, and this video is going to be about why I don't like Outer Worlds. Now, for the very small amount of people who are watching this, well, and the even smaller amount of people that don't know what Outer Worlds is, it's a new game that came out in, I believe, 2019. That was made by Obsidian, and it's been touted as Fallout in space, the definitive Fallout experience, because there's been a rift between Fallout fans for some time now. Some fans, ever since Bethesda took over and turned Fallout Extreme into Fallout 3, some people weren't happy with Fallout 3. Some people were not happy with... Some people were more happy with New Vegas over Fallout 3. And then the biggest divide that really split the fan base in the beginning was Fallout 4. A lot of people argue that Fallout 4 took away a lot of RPG mechanics and just the feel of being your own character instead of just being this protagonist in a story that you don't get to really choose. Fallout 4 kind of tried to take it a little mainstream. They worked on the gunplay and stuff like that. Really, they were trying to make it more appealing to a wider audience. And a wider audience of players don't really care for deep RPG mechanics like perk systems and skill trees and stuff like that. And I think Bethesda learned that with the success of Skyrim, because the level up system in Skyrim was fairly simple and is still today probably one of my favorite level up systems in any video game that I've ever seen. And I think it can be argued that Bethesda took that and noticed that, like, even people who don't typically play a fantasy RPG knew what Skyrim was. Most of them even played Skyrim at some point, maybe even bought Skyrim, and that really opened up Bethesda's market from generic, Dungeons and Dragons RPG nerd like myself to a wide variety of people across the entire world. I mean, you even see like Shirley Curry, where the Skyrim grandma, Skyrim is a game that like transcended everything. I remember delivering pizza to this guy that looked like a total jock one time, and he opens the door, and they're sitting there on a big flat screen TV playing Skyrim. And I was like, that's cool. I love this game, and I don't think I would have anything in common with this guy, but we both enjoy this game. And I think that was a really... Skyrim was a game that made Bethesda. And so they tried to learn from it, and I think there are a few lessons they learned from it that probably weren't the right message to take away. And that's what happened with Fallout 4. So then we all know about Fallout 76, and that kind of was the nail in the coffin for a lot of Fallout fans. It was, okay, you're not only taking away a lot of the RPG mechanics to the iconic dystopian RPG franchise, but now you're also just taking away the RPG, taking away the gameplay, the everything. I mean, Fallout 76 was Fallout without the Fallout. It was pretty terrible. And some people still like it, but you know, I'm sure some people bought Metal Gear Survive. That doesn't necessarily make a game good. So, the Fallout fan base has been craving a return to a more true, pure time of Fallout. My personal opinion, I had a lot of bad experiences with Fallout New Vegas when I got it. I got it like the day it came out, and throughout that first week it came out, I had to return and get replaced my disc for the game 3 times. And even after that, my game was still corrupted. My game, I got in like a corruption loop to where every time I walked into one of the casinos, it would, when they go to take your weapons away from you, the game would freeze and it would corrupt the save file from that point on. But the problem is I was terrible about manual saving. So I was like level 40 or something like that. No, I don't think you could even get to 40. I think it was like level 25, right? And I hadn't manual saved at all. I'd been counting on autosaves the whole time. And I mean, I just got the game the week it come out. I'd almost finished it. I was almost to the level cap without DLC because I didn't never have an internet back then. And it corrupted the save file, and that just kind of ruined Fallout New Vegas for me. It wasn't until years later that I managed to go back to it and somewhat enjoy it, but you know, it's not the same. I've already played Fallout 4, and the improved gameplay is kind of nice. I would like Bethesda to learn from Fallout New Vegas in terms of the way factions work and how you're not necessarily good or evil, you're either hated or loved by a specific faction. You know, morality is objective kind of thing. I thought that would be really cool. And they just kind of made bland factions, and I enjoy Fallout 4. I've gone back to it several times. I beat the crap out of that game. But I do acknowledge that it has its faults, and there are things that I would rather it do. I really loved Fallout 3. Fallout 3 was probably the best Fallout in my personal opinion. And it is the first Fallout I've ever played, so that might be biased. But I loved Fallout 3. So, now you might be wondering, but wait, this is a video about Outer Worlds, and you've been talking non-stop about Fallout this whole time. Well, I apologize for that. I rant quite a bit, but what I'm getting at is the Fallout fan base, ever since Obsidian made Fallout New Vegas, has decided that Obsidian is the only one that can make a true Fallout game because they have some of the original devs that worked on the beginning of the Fallout games. And while it's easy to say that there are better parts to Fallout New Vegas than Fallout 4, Fallout 3, I personally don't see Outer Worlds as a Fallout in space. But I don't like Outer Worlds in general. I think it's very overrated. It's one of those games that everybody kind of wanted to love, wanted every reason to love it. I mean, everybody says that like Pavarti is like the best character in gaming and all this stuff, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say that, like, her qualifiers and all that, everything that makes up Pavarti's character, when you break it down into labels, all that stuff, I'm not going to say that ruins the character for me. It doesn't. I thought she actually had a decent little love story in her companion quest and everything, and I found that interesting, and it was good to get to see that point of her character. But aside from the companion quest, which you could really go without doing completely, everything just kind of feels really bland. Like, it's kind of the opposite of the color scheme. Like, when you look at, like, a Bethesda Fallout or any of the newer Fallouts, one thing you see is a color scheme that's very muted and dull, while you have a very vibrant story and quest and stuff. Debatable on some of them. But I feel like Outer Worlds is the opposite. Outer Worlds is very vibrant visually. It's very visual game. But I feel like once you get into it, all the quest and everything just kind of feel dull. There's nothing real unique to it. I don't want to say that your actions don't have consequences, because they do have consequences in the game. But I found every single character in the game of Outer Worlds, with maybe a slight exception to Pavarti, to be completely stupid. Like, the whole narrative of Outer Worlds is how the corporations have, like, manipulated people into doing what they say and everything, and basically taking advantage of them and stuff. But it's not an excuse to have every character to just be these idiotic, mindless grunts, you know? Every character just kind of comes across the same. And going back to the visuals, while it's cool that it looks nice compared to, like, your old Fallouts, it does have, when you're in dialogue, it does look like a updated version of the old Fallouts, where in the old Fallouts you would see, like, a person talking in a box or something like that whenever you would interact with them in dialogue. And I guess it was the old Fallouts kind of had it was like listening to someone talk in a TV screen or something like that. And they were limited by the technology at the time. But with Bethesda's Fallouts, they've started trying to do what a lot of more modern RPGs do, where it's kind of more dynamic. You know, you're walking along, people are talking around you. You know, when you interact with somebody to talk to them in dialogue, it just kind of zooms in on them a little bit. And you can even have dialogue with them without it doing the little zoom in thing. And I've actually come to prefer that way of things going in dialogue. I found Outer Worlds dialogue box thing kind of jarring. It kind of reminded me of the talking paintings in Harry Potter, where, you know, the paintings would move and talk. That's kind of how it felt. It felt like the background behind them was just kind of like there, and then the character itself was like moving and talking and stuff, but it wasn't like connected in any way. It didn't feel like it was the actual background. It felt like it was a backdrop to this moving painting, you know? And there are several other things. I just couldn't get into it. And I don't know, I played it on Xbox Game Pass. I figured, why buy it when I already have Game Pass and it's on there? Because if you didn't know, Obsidian was bought by Microsoft. And so I gave it a try on there, and that's where I typically play games if, it's on Game Pass. I'll typically try them on Game Pass, and I don't know. I just could not get into it. I went back to it several times, and it just didn't click with me. I just didn't enjoy Outer Worlds that much. And I don't know why specifically. I mean, there are games that I've looked at that were objectively worse games than Outer Worlds that I just found myself playing for hours on end. And I'm not saying by any means that Outer Worlds is a bad game and that you should feel bad for playing it or anything like that. I'm just saying, in my own personal taste, I didn't like Outer Worlds. And I feel like I'm in a big minority here because I've never heard anybody really say anything negative about it. Would you listen to any other gaming YouTubers or anything? That's all positive stuff. And I get that. If a developer works hard on a game, you shouldn't just go out and trash it. But it just didn't work for me. I didn't like the world that much. I didn't like the planets. I didn't like the characters. I didn't care for the quest. Just none of it really clicked. Which is kind of sad because, like a lot of people, I would like in some miracle universe, Obsidian to get the rights from Bethesda to make like a Fallout New Vegas 2 or a Fallout New Orleans or something like that. A new Fallout game from their perspective. I think that would be awesome. I would love to see them keep doing it. But I didn't think Outer Worlds was it. Outer Worlds wasn't my Fallout. It wasn't what I was hoping Starfield to be. And I don't know, maybe I've become kind of accustomed to Bethesda's terrible game engine at this point, and that's just what drew me to it. But I'm still waiting for Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, and if Obsidian has another game come out similar, I'll try it. I'll give it a fair shake. Outer Worlds didn't hit with me, and I thought I'd share. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.